expedition that had become the bane of his career. He traced a finger over a particularly weathered map fragment, his voice dropping into a reverent whisper. This was supposed to be the breakthrough, the key to a lost city that could rewrite history. Instead, it became my undoing. I leaned in, drawn by the sincerity in his tone. Mythic's tale was one of ambition, hubris, and an unrelenting quest for knowledge that ended in discredit and professional exile. He spoke of nights spent poring over cryptic symbols, of promises made and broken, and of a mentor lost to the very lands we now traversed. Each word painted a vivid picture of a man haunted by his past, but unwilling to surrender to it. Outside the tent, Lena Dawes stood sentinel, her presence a steadying force against the encroaching dangers. Her sharp gaze never strayed far from the shifting horizon, where the sands whispered ominously and the threat of General Cross's forces loomed ever nearer. The tension was palpable, a constant reminder that our pursuit of the map's secrets was as perilous as it was thrilling. Back inside, Mythic's voice softened further as he shared the personal toll of his failure. I lost more than just credibility, he confessed. I lost faith in myself, in the myths I chased, even in the very idea that the past could be understood on our terms. But this map, it rekindles that faith. It demands that we listen, that we learn anew. His words resonated with me deeply. Here was a man who had stared into the abyss of doubt and come back with a renewed sense of purpose. It was a reminder that the path we walked was not just about unearthing the past, but about confronting our own fears and limitations. As dawn began to break, the first pale light seeped through the tent's fabric, casting a gentle glow on our weary faces. I reached out and placed a hand on Mythic's shoulder, a silent vow that we would face whatever lay ahead together. In that quiet moment, amid the ruins and the shadows of history, a fragile bond was forged, one that would carry us through the trials to come. The map's shifting lines awaited us with their cryptic promise, and with Mythic's rekindled passion, our journey took on new meaning. The past was not lost. It whispered to us in the stones, in the sand, and in the very heartbeat of the earth beneath our feet. And as we prepared to move forward, I knew that understanding these whispers was as much about redemption as it was about discovery. But even as hope stirred, the ever-present shadow of Cross's relentless pursuit cast a cold reminder of the stakes we faced. Trust, knowledge, and courage would be tested again, and the map's secrets would not be surrendered without a fight. With the fragile dawn breaking over the shifting lands, I felt the weight of history settle on my shoulders and the fierce determination of those beside me. The whispers of the past had found new ears, and the journey was far from over. Lena and I sat opposite each other, the firelight flickering between us, casting uncertain shadows that danced across our faces. I could feel the weight of the unspoken things between us, the mistrust that had lingered since we first joined forces. It was as if the map's shifting paths were mirrored by the shifting ground of our uneasy alliance. "You think I don't trust you," Lena said finally, breaking the silence, her voice low but steady. I met her sharp eyes, the ones that missed nothing, even in the dark. "It's not that simple. You're pragmatic, ruthless sometimes. I've seen it, but I also know the stakes." Her lips tightened, but she nodded. "And you're cautious to a fault. Too many doubts, too many questions. But maybe that's what's kept us alive this far." The fire crackled, sending a shower of sparks upward, and for a moment the only sound was the night itself. Then she shifted forward, her tones softer. "We can't do this alone, Elias. Not if we want to keep the map safe." I nodded slowly. "I know, but trust doesn't come easy. Not after everything." She exhaled sharply, standing up and moving into the shadows beyond the firelight. "Watch this," she called over her shoulder. Curiosity piqued, I followed her gaze into the darkness. Lena moved with a predator's grace, her steps silent yet purposeful as she navigated the uneven forest floor. She demonstrated a series of swift, precise maneuvers, clearly practiced and honed for efficiency and survival. Each movement was punctuated by the crisp sound of cracking branches or the whisper of leaves stirred by her passage. I couldn't help but admire the sheer skill and focus she brought to her craft. When she returned to the firelight, I was silent for a beat before speaking. "You're more than just muscle. You think ahead." A faint smile tugged at her lips. "And you think too much. But together, maybe we balance each other out." The map lay between us on a flat rock, its surface glowing faintly in the lantern light. I traced the newly revealed paths with my finger, feeling the thrill and dread of the unknown pressing on me. Lena's gaze was sharp as ever, her eyes scanning the tree line beyond our camp, alert for any signs of movement. "We need to anticipate their moves," she said, nodding toward the shadows. "Cross won't stop until he has the map." I folded the map carefully, meeting her steady look. "Then we need new tactics. More than just running, we have to be unpredictable." Together, we laid out a rough plan on the makeshift table fashioned from fallen branches, voices low but resolute. We discussed decoys, hidden caches, and routes that the map might reveal at dawn. The distant echoes of footsteps reminded us sharply of the relentless pursuit closing in, but rather than fear, a cautious optimism began to take root. This was no longer just a flight for survival. It was a calculated fight to protect something far greater than ourselves. As the fire died down to embers, I realized that the true journey was no longer just about the shifting lands or the secrets of the map. It was about the fragile, hard-won trust between two people thrown together by fate and necessity. And if we could hold on to that, maybe, just maybe, we stood a chance against whatever darkness lay ahead. But the night was far from over, and the dawn would bring new challenges, new paths to follow, new dangers to face. And I would have to rely on Lena, not just as a protector, but as a partner in this unfolding quest. The crossroads of trust were treacherous, but necessary. And at this intersection, the fate of the map and perhaps the world hung in the balance. The fire flickered one last time before succumbing to the cold ash, and I knew, whatever came next, we would face it together. But could that be enough? The map awaited the dawn, and with it, the future remained as fluid and uncertain as ever. Surrounded by a jumble of cables and blinking devices, she leaned forward, her eyes scanning the streams of data that flowed relentlessly before her. Satellite images flickered, encrypted communications decrypted themselves on the fly, and a complex network of signals from field devices whispered their secrets. Jade's fingers moved with practiced precision, tapping commands, isolating frequencies, and triangulating sources. Somewhere thousands of miles away, Elias, Mercer, and his companions were moving through the shifting wilderness, following the living map's cryptic paths. They were vulnerable, and Jade was their unseen shield. Tonight, the data coalesced into a single urgent warning. An encrypted message intercepted from a mercenary comm channel betrayed the approach of hostile forces. The coordinates matched the path Elias's group had planned to take. Jade's heartbeat quickened. The warning was unmistakable. The mercenaries were closing in, their intent unmistakably clear: to capture the map and its guardians. She reached for her radio, fingers steady despite the surge of adrenaline. "Elias, Lena, Haroon, this is Jade. I'm picking up hostile movements ahead. They're planning an ambush near your next waypoint. You need to change course, now." Back in the field, Elias's weathered face tightened as the radio crackled to life. Lena exchanged a sharp glance with him, her eyes narrowing. "We've got company," Elias murmured, folding the map carefully. Malik adjusted his glasses, the lines of worry deepening on his forehead. "This is what we feared. Cross's forces won't relent. We must be ready." The group moved quickly, their steps measured but urgent. With Jade's guidance, they avoided the expected trap, veering into the dense forest where shadows thickened and the air smelled of damp earth and pine. Lena moved to scout ahead, her senses sharp, while Elias and Malik prepared their gear. The rustle of leaves and distant bird calls formed a fragile soundtrack, a deceptive calm before the storm. Minutes stretched into tense moments as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to reach for them. Then, a sudden crack, the telltale sound of a branch breaking underfoot, shattered the silence. Figures emerged from the darkness, mercenaries clad in black tactical gear, weapons raised and eyes cold with intent. The ambush had begun, but this time, Ilias's group was ready. Lena's swift commands cut through the night, positioning the team behind natural cover. Malik clutched an ancient artifact, its significance lost to their attackers, but vital to Ilias's understanding of the map's shifting powers. Ilias steadied his breath, the lessons of past failures sharpening his focus. Gunfire erupted, echoing through the trees in sharp bursts that mingled with shouted orders and the pounding of hearts. Jade's voice crackled through the radio, offering updates and tactical advice. Enemy reinforcements spotted to the east. "You have a narrow window to break contact. I'm rerouting comms to avoid interception." The battle was fierce but brief. Using their knowledge of the terrain and Jade's guidance, Ilyas's group inflicted enough damage to force the mercenaries to retreat into the shadows. As the echoes of gunfire faded, a heavy silence settled, broken only by ragged breaths and the soft rustle of leaves. Elias lowered his weapon, eyes scanning the darkened forest. "We can't afford to let down our guard. Cross won't stop, and this map demands more from us than ever." Lena nodded, her expression grim but resolute. "Thanks to Jade, we have a chance to stay one step ahead. Now we need to use it." Malik adjusted his satchel, a rare smile flickering across his face. The dance between ancient secrets and modern technology, it seems the world's mysteries are never as simple as they appear. As they moved deeper into the night, the living map pulsed faintly in Elias's pack, its shifting lines promising new paths and new dangers. The interplay of shadows and signals, old wisdom and new tools, was their only hope against the relentless pursuit. And as dawn approached, Elias felt the weight of the quest settle anew, the endless pursuit of knowledge, shadowed by the ever-present threat of destruction. He glanced up at the stars, their cold light a reminder of the vast unknown. "This is only the beginning," he whispered. "The map still has many stories left to tell, and we must be ready to listen." Outside, the forest held its breath, waiting for the dawn to redraw the world once more. Elias Mercer stood beside Marco Silva, their eyes fixed on a rocky hillside that seemed, at first glance, no different from any other. Yet the ancient map clutched in Elias's hand pulsed with a faint, ethereal light, its lines and symbols subtly shifting to reveal a new path, one that had not been visible the day before. "There," Marco whispered, pointing toward an almost imperceptible crevice nestled between jagged stones. "That's the passage the map's pointing us to. It's been hidden all this time, but the land's been shifting, it's only just revealed itself." Elias leaned closer, his breath catching as he felt the weight of discovery settle over them. The passage was narrow, a slit in the rock that beckoned like the mouth of some ancient beast waiting to be explored. The air was thick with the scent of earth and moss, and the soft rustle of leaves whispered secrets he could almost hear. "Are you sure this is safe?" Elias asked, his voice low, betraying the cautious edge that had become ingrained after years of betrayal and near misses. Marco gave a wry smile, his rugged features illuminated by the early light. "Safe? Probably not. But it's the only lead we've got." Lena Dawes approached, her sharp eyes scanning the surroundings with practiced vigilance. "Then we move carefully. We don't know what's waiting for us down there, and Cross's men won't be far behind." With that, the trio prepared to descend. Elias secured his pack, adjusting the straps as he tried to steady the quickening beat of his heart. The map's glow brightened in response, illuminating the path ahead like a living guide. The descent was slow and deliberate. The passage narrowed swiftly, forcing them to duck beneath low-hanging rocks and navigate uneven footing. The walls, slick with dampness, were etched with faded carvings, symbols and figures that seemed to pulse with a life of their own under Lena's flashlight beam. Elias ran his fingers over the ancient glyphs, each touch sending a thrill through him. Here was a language older than any he had studied, a story etched in stone that whispered of worlds long forgotten. The air grew cooler, heavy with the scent of dust and stone, mingled faintly with the distant sound of dripping water. "Look at this," Marcus murmured, pointing to a relief depicting a great tree entwined with serpents. A motif echoed on the map's shifting design. "It matches the mythologies from the northern tribes," Elias said, his voice hushed with reverence. "The world's origin intertwined with nature and chaos." After what felt like hours, the passage opened abruptly into a vast cavern. Elias blinked against the sudden expanse, his eyes tracing the soaring columns and crumbling arches that reached into darkness above. Sand covered the floor in thick, soft dunes, undisturbed by time. The subterranean city was breathtaking, a frozen testament to a civilization erased from history but preserved in stone. The silence was profound, broken only by the soft rustle of shifting sand and the faint hum of the map's light. "It's incredible," Lena breathed, lowering her weapon as she took in the sight. "But we're not alone for long." Her words were a warning. Elias's gaze snapped to the cavern entrance, where shadows flickered. Footsteps echoed faintly, distant but growing louder. The unmistakable sound of soldiers, heavy boots pounding the earth. Marco's voice was sharp, urgent. "They've found us. We need to prepare." Elias's fingers tightened around the map, feeling its warmth pulse in tandem with his rising adrenaline. This was no longer just a quest for knowledge. It was a battle for survival, for the future of the secrets they had uncovered. "We hold this place," Elias said, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside. "Whatever it takes." As the first of Cross's forces breached the cavern's threshold, the map's glow intensified, casting long, dancing shadows on ancient walls. The living map seemed to respond not only to the dawn, but to the very heartbeat of the conflict unfolding beneath the earth. The subterranean city was no longer just a relic of the past. It was a battlefield, the fulcrum on which the fate of the world's origin balanced precariously. Elias, Marco, and Lena steeled themselves, knowing that every step forward into the depths brought them closer to the truth, and to the danger that truth invited. Outside, the shifting lands waited, endless and unpredictable. But here, beneath the surface, time itself seemed to hold its breath, and the map continued to pulse, alive and waiting for the dawn to reveal its next secret. Elias took a deep breath, the weight of his responsibility settling like a cloak around his shoulders. The journey was far from over, and the hidden passage was only the beginning. The night deepened, and with it, the battle for the map's secret began anew, echoing through the ancient halls where history and destiny intertwined. The chamber beyond was vast, its walls adorned with intricate murals that wound like serpents through history itself, illuminated only by the flickering flames of torches mounted on iron brackets. The scenes depicted civilizations rising and falling, their borders and landscapes morphing and folding as if the earth itself were a living, breathing entity. Elias stepped inside cautiously, his round glasses catching the light as he adjusted them, eyes scanning every detail with the precision of a seasoned cartographer. The murals were breathtaking cities, crowned with spires and domes, vast empires stretching across continents. And then, in the same breath, their sudden collapse into ruin. The lands beneath them shifted, sometimes violently, as if the map in his possession was not merely a tool, but a reflection of this very Earth's volatile heart. "It's incredible," Lena whispered beside him, her voice low but tense. Her sharp eyes darted around the chamber, alert to any sign of danger beyond the ancient walls. Marco stood nearby, his posture relaxed yet ready, hand resting near the worn handle of his knife. "Incredible, yes," Elias murmured, "but it's more than that. Look here." He pointed to a section of the mural where the lines between land and sea blurred, as if the borders themselves were fluid, shifting with the tides of time and power. "This isn't just history, it's a warning." Leaning closer, they examined a series of glyphs etched beneath the painting symbols that pulsed faintly with an otherworldly glow, as though the map's power seeped into the very stones around them. Ilias's heart quickened. The ancient mechanism he'd found moments before lay embedded in the floor, a complex array of gears and levers, worn by millennia but still intact. Professor Harun Malik's voice broke the silence, trembling with a mixture of awe and desperation. "This chamber, it codifies the power of the map, not merely to show the world, but to shape it, to redraw boundaries, to shift lands, to decide the fate of civilizations." Elias turned to Malik, his mentor's eccentric passion laid bare. "Are you saying the map could actually change the world?" "Not just metaphorically," Malik replied, eyes gleaming. "Some ancient force encoded here, harnessed through the map's living design. The implications are staggering." A heavy silence followed, broken only by the distant echo of gunfire and shouted commands carried faintly through the thick stone walls. Lena's expression darkened. "Cross's men are closing in. We don't have much time." The realization hit Elias like a physical blow. This was no longer a mere academic pursuit. The map, with all its mystery and wonder, was a weapon, a tool of unimaginable power that could be wielded by those with the will and the ruthlessness to dominate. He felt the weight of his choices pressing down. To seek knowledge had been his lifelong quest, but now that knowledge demanded a price. Could he protect the map from those who sought to exploit it? Could he bear the burden of its secrets without succumbing to the same thirst for power that drove General Cross? "We have to be careful," Elias said finally, his voice steady but laden with the gravity of his decision. "The power here, it's not just a discovery, it's a responsibility. And if we fail, the consequences could be catastrophic." Marco nodded, stepping forward to examine the mechanism. "Whatever this is, it's ancient and dangerous. We'll need to understand it better if we're going to keep Cross at bay." Lena's eyes met Ilias's, fierce and unwavering. "Then we fight, not just for the map, but for what it represents." Elias swallowed the lump in his throat, steeling himself for the path ahead. The chamber seemed to pulse with silent energy, a heartbeat from a world long gone but never truly lost. Somewhere in that shifting history lay the truth he sought and the cost he must pay. As the torches flickered and shadows danced against the walls, Elias made a silent vow. No matter the price, he would protect the map's secret. For in the fluid lines of its design, he saw not only the past and present, but the fragile hope for the future. But even as he turned away from the mural, a cold whisper of doubt crept in. Was knowledge worth the price of destruction? And how long before the shadows hunting them would close the final distance? Outside the chamber, the distant clash of gunfire grew louder. Elias Mercer took a deep breath and prepared to face the storm. Around him, a cluster of officers and mercenaries shifted uneasily, their hushed voices a stark contrast to the usual disciplined silence of his command. Maps sprawled across the steel table displayed the shifting terrains and strategic points. But Cross's gaze was distant, weighed down by the unseen fractures threatening to unravel his meticulously planned campaign. The past weeks had seen a growing restlessness among his forces. The mercenaries, hardened as they were, had begun questioning the morality behind their mission. Whispers of doubt muttered in the shadows, a dangerous fissure in the otherwise formidable facade Cross relied upon. The goal of reshaping borders and wielding the living map's power for domination, once clear and compelling in his mind, now seemed to others a reckless gamble with catastrophic consequences. Captain Rourke paced the length of the room, his expression grim. His tactical gear bore the insignia of Cross's command, but his eyes flickered with concern. He had been the general's most loyal lieutenant, but even he could not ignore the unease spreading through the ranks. Earlier that day, a faction of mercenaries had openly defied a direct order to escalate a brutal operation, choosing instead to question the cost of their actions. "We can't keep pushing like this," Rourke muttered under his breath, catching the eye of a nearby officer. "The men are fracturing. They're not just afraid, they're angry." Cross's voice cut through the murmurs like a whip. "Discipline is not optional. The map belongs to us, and with it, the power to shape the future. We do not falter." Yet even his words carried an edge of desperation. The general's past haunted